everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into the absolutely incredible natural world of India. It's a land of just breathtaking contrasts. We're going to talk about everything from its wild, life-giving climate swings all the way to the amazing variety of plants and animals that call it home. This is going to be a journey into an ecosystem that's really like no other. So let's get started. So to really get a feel for India, you have to wrap your head around its extremes. Think about it. In the far north, in places like Dras and Kargil, you could literally be in a world of ice. We're talking freezing cold. But then, in the very same country, you could travel down to the deserts of Rajasthan, maybe to a city like Jaisalmer, and bam, you're in this scorching, sun-baked heat. It's this unbelievable range that's the key to, well, pretty much everything else we're about to explore. All right, so here's our game plan for today. We've just touched on those incredible contrasts. Next up, we'll dive into the rhythms of India's seasons. Then we'll see how that climate creates 5 totally distinct types of forests. From there, we'll get to meet the wildlife living in those forests, and we'll wrap up with a really important look at why nature needs our help. To really grasp all this diversity, we have to start with the engine that's driving it all, the climate. And this isn't just about, one day being sunny and the next rainy. It's about a much bigger, cyclical pattern that shapes the entire subcontinent. Okay, so first things first, let's get a really important distinction out of the way: weather versus climate. They're not the same thing. Weather is the short-term stuff, what's happening outside your window right now. Is it hot, cold, sunny, windy? That's weather. Climate, on the other hand, is the big picture. It's the average of all that weather over many, many years. And believe me, India's climate is something special. So the climate of India is generally described as a monsoon type. Now, what's so cool about this is the word itself. It actually comes from the Arabic word mausim, which just means seasons. And it's these super powerful seasonal monsoon winds that are pretty much the lifeblood of the region, bringing most of the country's rain. This powerful monsoon system creates 4 really distinct seasons that kind of govern the whole cycle of life in India. The year kicks off with the cold weather season, winter, from December to February. That gives way to the building heat of the hot weather season, or summer, from March to May. Then comes the main event, the southwest monsoon, the rainy season, from June to September. And finally, the cycle wraps up with the retreating monsoon, or autumn, in October and November. Okay, let's take a closer look at winter. During this time of year, the sun's rays are hitting this part of the world at an angle, so they don't fall directly overhead. The results? Well, temperatures, especially up in northern India, get pretty low. It's definitely a time for warm clothes and hot chai. And then the whole pendulum just swings the other way. In the summer, the sun's rays become much, much more direct. Temperatures start to climb and they can get really high. This season also brings this unique thing, these hot, dry, and sometimes really intense winds called the lu that sweep across the plains during the day. And then, after all that intense, baking heat, finally comes the relief. The southwest monsoon season arrives. And how it works is, honestly, beautifully simple. You've got these powerful winds blowing in from the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, and they just scoop up a ton of moisture. When these winds, now totally loaded with water, hit the land and run into mountains, they have nowhere to go but up. As they rise, they cool down, and poof, they drop all that water as rain. And you have to understand, agriculture across India is just so incredibly dependent on these rains. So we've got this powerful climate engine with its very distinct seasons, but what's the direct result of all that varied heat and rainfall? Well, it's an incredible diversity of natural vegetation. Let's see how this climate literally shapes the landscape of India. It's pretty amazing. Now, before we explore these amazing forests, what do we actually mean when we say natural vegetation? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's all the plant life, the grasses, the shrubs, the trees, that grows completely on its own, without any help or interference from people. It's basically nature doing its thing. And because India's climate is so varied, its natural vegetation can be broken down into 5 major types. Each one is its own unique world, perfectly adapted to the amount of rain and heat it gets. So let's dive in and explore them. First up, we have the tropical rainforests. You'll find these in areas that get a ton of rain. They're so incredibly dense with life that the canopy of leaves at the top blocks most of the sunlight from ever reaching the forest floor. And get this, because different types of trees shed their leaves at different times, the forest as a whole always looks green. That's why they're often called evergreen forests. Some really important trees here are mahogany, ebony, and rosewood. Okay, next up we have the most common type of forest in India, the tropical deciduous forests. You might also hear them called monsoon forests. They're not quite as dense as the rainforests, and their defining feature is that all the trees shed their leaves at a particular time of year, usually during the dry season, as a way to save water. This category includes really valuable trees like sal, teak, peepal, and neem. All right, now let's head over to the really dry parts of the country. This is where you find thorny bushes. This type of vegetation is just brilliantly adapted to survive with very little water. The leaves have actually evolved to be more like spines or thorns, which is this really clever trick to reduce the amount of water lost through evaporation. So think of plants like cactus, babool, and kikar. As we start to climb in altitude, the whole plant scene changes completely. In the mountains, as the temperature drops with height, you find a whole different range of species. At heights between, say, 1,500 and 2,500 meters, the trees start to take on this very distinctive cone shape. These are coniferous trees, like pine, cheer, and deodar, and that cone shape actually helps them shed snow during the winter. Pretty smart, huh? And finally, our fifth type is one of the most unique ecosystems on the entire planet, the mangrove forests. What is just absolutely mind-blowing about these coastal forests is their ability to survive and even thrive in saline, that's salt water. The most famous example in India has to be the Sundarbans, which are actually named after the sundari tree, a well-known type of mangrove that grows there. So we've basically built the world, from the climate engine to the 5 great forests it creates. Now it's time to meet the incredible inhabitants. Let's explore the call of the wild and check out the diverse wildlife that makes these habitats their home. And we have to start with 2 of the most iconic residents of all. The majestic tiger is India's national animal, found in different parts of the country. And the vibrant, absolutely stunning peacock is the national bird. Both of them are powerful symbols of the nation's incredible natural heritage. And this is a perfect example of how animals are linked to specific habitats. The Gir forest in Gujarat, for example, is the famous and only home of the Asiatic lion. If you head over to the forest of Assam, you can find elephants and the great one-horned rhinoceroses. And if you go way up into the high Himalayan region, you'll find animals that are adapted to the extreme cold, like wild goats and the super elusive snow leopard. Beyond the big mammals, India is also this crucial stop for countless birds. And just listen to this incredible fact. There's this tiny migratory bird called the little stint. It weighs as little as 15 grams. That's like the weight of a couple of coins. And it travels over 8,000 kilometers, all the way from the Arctic region, just to spend the winter in India. That is absolutely amazing. We've seen this beautiful, complex system of climate, vegetation, and wildlife. But here's the thing. It's also a pretty fragile system. So the really crucial point now is to understand why these natural treasures are so vital and what's being done to protect them. Let's just ask the most basic question. Why do we even need forests? I know it seems obvious, but the reasons are way more profound and interconnected than you might think. What do they really do for us and for the planet? Well, here's the breakdown. First, and maybe most importantly, plants release the oxygen that we all breathe. The roots of trees literally bind the soil together, which prevents disastrous soil erosion. They provide us with countless resources, from timber and fuel to medicinal plants and herbs. And, of course, they are the essential natural habitat for all the amazing wildlife we've just been talking about. I mean, simply put, they are essential for life. Now, because these habitats are under serious threat from things like deforestation and hunting, dedicated conservation efforts are underway. The government has launched major initiatives like Project Tiger and Project Elephant. These are specifically designed to protect these key species and their homes by setting up national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves. And this really brings us to our final and most important takeaway. The source material makes it crystal clear that conservation isn't just a job for governments. It says you can also contribute by doing things like refusing to buy products made from animal parts, or by planting trees, or just by spreading awareness. We all have a role to play. So the question isn't just what is being done, but what will you do? How will you answer the call of the wild?